Hello, today I want to speak about the Fibonacci sequence. You might have heard about this before. It's really an archetypal pattern. It is a formula for creation, for progression. It's a pattern of growth in life, and you can find it all over in many aspects in our life, as we will see in a few minutes. Let me first share the Fibonacci sequence with you quickly. So as you can see, it's a pattern, it's a growth pattern. And the Fibonacci sequence, it starts with 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, as you can see here on the screen. And as you also can see, each number is the sum of the two preceding numbers. That also means that the increments between each number, they get larger and larger in absolute terms, right? But then at the same time, the growth, the increments in relative terms, they are the same. And they equate to 161.8% of the preceding number, which is the golden ratio, which is really a pattern which we humans relate to an ideal of beauty. And let me show you a few examples of how that is visible in nature. As you can see here, that's something you can find all over nature in the patterns of flowers, the patterns of clouds, storms phasing, our DNA, snails, even the universe is reflecting this golden spiral, these patterns, as you can also see here in the middle. This is the Fibonacci sequence expressed in a spiral. Again, as you can see here, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and is growing in absolute terms. Another example here is architecture. So we find that ratio, that pattern all over again in architecture, because architects discovered this measure, of course, and it equates to beauty. As I've said before, it's also something we find in our bodily proportions all over again. I believe Leonardo da Vinci used that, right? So it's really something you can find all over in nature. And the question is, what's the relevance right now, right? Let me share that with you, because it's really important to understand. So if we take the Fibonacci sequence again, as you can see here, you see initially not really a lot is happening, right? The increments are very small, you can almost not visible, right? And then the increments start getting bigger and bigger and become visible. So what does that mean? That means the foundation is important. There's no overnight success, right? It's not a start from 0 to 100, right? In an instance. It's first about building the foundation, even though that might not yet be visible, right? So tiny, as you can see here, almost not visible, but it's the requirement for the next steps. So they're important. You cannot miss them. And you can also think of examples in our lives. If you can think of, or implies literally, this growth pattern implies literally that there is no overnight success. And if there is overnight success, it probably will not last, because there's no foundation. And I remember a study I read a few years ago about lottery winners. People who won the jackpot became millionaires overnight in an instant. All right. And so in these studies, they checked in with these lottery winners. They checked their level of happiness and levels of wealth, obviously, and they followed up in certain intervals and after that happened. And what they discovered is that basically the whole population went back to baseline, not only in terms of happiness, but also in terms of wealth, because they had no foundation to manage that new situation, right? So really important to get is growth, goals, progression, it's always dependent on a foundation, yeah, which might not yet be visible. So it's really about step by step progressing and not jumping over any of these steps, right? That does not equate to any given time interval, however. Yeah, you can have that progression in a short period of time or in a long period of time. That's something else, right? And I want to share a story to illustrate that. I resigned 1.5 years ago from my corporate job, which was really a big step for me because challenged quite a few assumptions about myself, right? Lacking the confidence and what will I be doing? I'm losing all my security. I'm giving away my golden cage, and then what will I get? Yeah, it was really an unknown situation, a lot of fear, and really the day I resigned, that morning, I still had no clue. Like, will I resign or not? Like, what should I be doing? Still a lot of doubt. But then I did it, and it might look like an overnight decision, yeah, or an instant or something overcoming me. And it, from one perspective, something came over me, but from the other one, not, because I have been for 1-2 years really focused on that, like thinking about alternatives, building my confidence, and not wanting to be in employment anymore. And I was focusing on becoming independent, becoming autonomous, yeah, in a sense, sovereign. Yeah, I was focused on that. I had a clear intention set on that, which was occupying my mind for at least 2 years, right? However, I didn't feel I will ever make it. Yeah, I feel I was lacking the confidence. I didn't feel ready to do it. Even that day I finally resigned, I didn't feel like it. And what, like, the whole point is, yeah, I was building the foundation all that time and was not even recognizing it by myself until I made the resignation, right? And that's the whole point. Yeah, build the foundation, be clear on your goal. Don't quit if you really want to go after that goal. Don't quit because you think nothing is happening yet. Yeah, it is happening as long as you're clear on the goal, the intention, and you're following through. And following through means taking action towards that goal. It doesn't mean being busy and doing inessential stuff and distracting yourself and with your compensating tendency. That's something else. But as long as you're clear with a vision and you follow through, something is happening. You're building this structure. So don't make the mistake. And that's why this video is so important, to recognize something is happening below the surface. Yeah. And at some point we will recognize it. But if we think nothing is happening, so we are on the wrong track, that's a mistake. But be clear, it's about true action, not just being busy and distracting yourself. And then something is happening. And that's really, really the important takeaway here is, even if you don't recognize yet something is happening, something is building below the surface. And that also means we can relax, right? We don't need to jump to the end, to the goal, like overnight and figure it all out. Yeah, no, it's about being clear where we want to go and then step by step. So that takes some pressure out because we can learn from nature. Something's happening. Growth is occurring. Progression is being done, right? And that's really relevating. Study in the word. And relaxing, yeah, take some pressure off. And I want to do a little exercise with you, propose you something, yeah, to start recognizing where you are in regards to the Fibonacci sequence towards your goals. Yeah. Before we do that little exercise, first of all, it's important to recap, to know, in order to arrive at your destination, you must be very precise and clear what's your intention, what you're after. Very important. You must know where you are right now. You must be truthful. You must be real with yourself, the good and the bad. Yeah? You must be clear where you are. And of course, then to follow through. And if one of those three is missing, nothing is happening, respectively something which you don't really want. And the exercise is the following. Let's go back to the Fibonacci sequence. So let's assume that the goal you're after, the vision you have, is set at Fibonacci number 89, which is the 11th segment in the Fibonacci sequence. And like, to be clear, there does not need to be a material goal. It can be also, as in my case, it was something I had or still have an intention, is to increase my awareness for my emotions, my thoughts, and also connect with my bodily senses, my awareness. So, for example, that's my 89, to be really connected, to sense what is happening in my body and to improve that, be more within me, centered within me instead of outwards focus. So that can very much be an intention, a goal. So let's assume this is my goal. And now it's about discovering or thinking, reflecting, where am I right now in the sequence towards that goal? Am I just starting, in my case, building my awareness? Am I just at the beginning? Have I never thought about this before? Am I just making this intention today for the first time? So am I at the beginning, or have I already put in some effort, some time? Have I been building something already? Have I been even recognizing that already? That something is happening, that I'm moving, that I'm progressing. And in my case, in the beginning, when I started, there was no awareness whatsoever. It was just my mind chatter all the time and confusing myself with my mind, and my mind telling me that's all nonsense. Nothing is happening. You will never make it. This is wasted time. You should better work, etc. So as an illustration here again, that was building foundation with no awareness whatsoever. And luckily, I kept faith. I continued with this practice in a sense, and now I'm recognizing a progression. I'm seeing change. I'm not identifying with my mind so much as I did. I'm transcending it to some extent. So in the case of, let's assume I'm at an 8 or I'm at a 13. So there's really, can sense I built some foundation, right? But then also towards what I intend to go, I'm really just at the beginning in absolute terms. So in that case, again, be clear where we are, current reality. Let's say I'm at the 13. And now the next step is look at the following segment, in that case 21. So how does that look like? How does that feel like? Like, what's the experience? But then also, what are the skills? What are the competencies? What are the obvious steps taking you to the next step, right? So that's really the third part in this exercise. First one is to be clear, to define what you're after, where you are in relation to that goal, but then also what's the next step. So I really invite you to do that little exercise, tune in, like look at your goals, because that really helps you to gain awareness, what's happening, but then also realize that something is happening. And possibly also helps you to relax a little bit, to recognize something is happening, where I am, and then also be clear on what's the next step. Thank you for watching this, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts and feedback. Thank you.